All right, so this is what we already know how to do. So we're just going to quickly factor these just to refresh our memory on how to do these. Okay. So looking at any of them, what is our first question every single time?
What can we take out?
What can we take out? So looking at this first one, can we take anything out?
3x.
Take out 3x, which leaves you with x plus 2. Okay. Can we take anything out of this one? No. Okay, what do we do when there's two terms and you're subtracting them? When there's two terms and you're subtracting them.
The box. No.
You square root them. Okay, so that means it's what?
X minus 5, x plus 5.
Perfect. Okay, now down here. Can't take anything out. Do we square root? No. Okay, when there's addition here, you can't do that. So this one is prime. All right, when we have three terms, what is our first step every single time? We still ask what we can take out. Okay, and then we'll draw the x. But can we take anything out of this first one? No. Okay, so we draw the x. What goes on top? 16. 8. What two numbers work? Do we have to do the window step on this one?
No.
How come? What determines whether you do or not?
The number before it. The first that one.
Yeah, there's no number here, so we don't have to do the window step. Okay? So we can just write x plus 4, x plus 4. Okay, this next one. Can we take anything out? No. Okay, so we put 34 and 19. Two numbers? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that multiplies to 34 and it adds together to 19. Okay, we don't need the window step on this one either, so we have y plus 17, y plus 2. We are going to need the window step on this one because we have a 42 on the front, not a 1. Okay, so these numbers are going to get a little bit large here. So how do we find this top number? What do we do? And how did you get this number? Okay, you take 42 times negative 9, and then 47 down there. 378. Thank you. Okay. So, let's say we have this on the test, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what the factors of 378 are. What should we start doing on our calculator? We should start with 2, and we're just going to make our list of factors, okay, because we're looking for integers. We're not going to worry about the negative sign for now, okay? So off to the side over here, we've got 1 times 378, which is not going to work to get negative 47. And then we're just going to figure out what all of these are. So we take 378 divided by 2, and then we'll just keep going through and writing down all of our factors. Okay, 4 doesn't work. And I know 5 won't work. So we'll try 6. We're getting closer, right? To a number that's going to work. Does that one work? Yeah? Okay. So what do the signs have to be to get a negative 47? Negative 54, positive 7. Okay, it's totally doable to do these big numbers. You just start a factor list over on the right-hand side. Okay. Joe, please take notes. We've got negative 54. Now, what do we put on these numbers? What variables? We put whatever's on the middle one, okay, which happens to be x and m. And then we put our original problem right here in blue along the diagonal here. So we've got 42x squared, negative 47xm, and negative 9m squared. All right, so now the last step is what can we divide out of each column and row, and we have our answer. Okay, so what if we're starting down here on the bottom? What could we divide out of both of these? Yep, that's it. That's the only thing in common. What could we divide out of both of these numbers? 6x. 6x. Okay, this first column, what numbers and letters? 7x. And here. Negative 9m. Okay, so there's our answer. Along the side in green, we have 6x plus m, and we have 7x minus 9m. So that's what we've learned so far. We have one last way to factor. Notice we've talked about binomials, trinomials, and now we're going to look at ones that have 4 terms in them, and we're going to factor by grouping. Our last section of this chapter is just bringing it all together, so this is really the last way that we're going to learn how to factor for the year. Okay? So this is what these problems look like. Now we're going to start by talking about the GCF, which is what can we take out. Okay? So looking at this problem right here, we have 2 terms right now. We have a term right here, and we have a term right here. What could we take out of both of those terms that's in common?
Y minus z.
We could take a y minus z out front, right? Because it's in common with both terms. So if we take a y minus z out front, what's left over? We get x minus 3. So that's all we're doing right now. This is the first step. Looking at this one over to the right, what's in common with these terms right here? We could take that a plus b out front, and we just have to write what would be left over in each of the terms. Got x in the front, and when we take everything away, yes, we leave a 1 there in its place. Now these two on the bottom are a little bit different, okay? They don't exactly have the same thing that we can take out of both terms. They're still 2 terms. We have a term here and we have a term here. Okay, but they're not exactly the same. So here's how we change it so that it is. What we can do is we can change the signs on all 3 of these numbers and letters to be the opposite sign. Okay, so this is how it would look if we rewrote it. Negative 3y, y minus 3 we're not changing. But if we make this plus 2, and we make this negative 3 plus y, we can do that. Now if you look at what's in the parentheses, these are really the same thing, right? Y minus 3, negative 3 plus y. Could just rewrite the second one. Okay, so I'm going to do that just so when you look back at your notes, you remember why we're doing this, but I'm going to skip this step in the future. Because these are really the same thing. All I did was rewrite the second parenthesis. So now there's something in common that we could pull out front. Okay, what's that common thing? The y minus 3. So if we take a y minus 3 from here and a y minus 3 from here, what's left? So that's factored. So I'm going to skip one of these steps on our next problem. So I'm going to rewrite it so that we do have a common factor by changing the signs on these three things, the x, the 2, and the x. So now we have minus x, and then here we have x minus 2. Because I changed the signs on all three of them, but I also rearranged them at the same time. So now we have a common term that we can take out of both. And we're left just with this 7 and the minus x. Now most of the problems aren't going to come to you where they're already grouped like this. They're going to look like the ones on the next page. But are there questions on this step of it? All right. So here's the process on these. This would be an example of a problem they would give you. Now, what's the only thing that I did from here to here? I put parentheses around them, right? Okay, I didn't reorder anything. I didn't change signs. All I did was throw some parentheses on there. Now, when we're looking at these, each individually, we want to take out what's in common. So looking at just this set right here, what could we take out of those two terms? Just a y, correct? So we've got y, and what are we left with? Okay, that's step one. We'll do the same thing on the other set of parentheses here. What could we take out of these? 3z, left with? Okay, now it looks similar to the last slide that we were just looking at, okay? But if you look at the parentheses now, they're not exactly the same, so we have to rewrite it where we switch the signs on the second part. So this stays the same, but all of these are going to change. So now it's minus 3z, and then these are going to change signs, and I'm going to rewrite them. So now the 4y is positive, and it's a minus 3x. Now they're the same, yes. That is what we could divide out of both of these. We could divide the 9 by a 3 and a 12 by a 3, and then there's this z in common with both. So we're trying to pull out what's in common. Okay, so now looking at this one, we have a common term, this 4y minus 3x. So we take that out front, and then we write what's left over after we took those away, which is y minus 3z. It's the same process every time we do this. So we're going to go through a couple more times just to make sure we're good. All right, so it's not always going to be automatic that you pair the ones that are next to each other together. Okay, so if, for instance, if you look at this one, AB minus 2C, is there anything in common there? No. So there would be nothing we could take out. So you can rearrange them so that they're grouped by each other with things that have things in common. So let's put this one and then this one second. So we'll go AB minus 2B, and then we'll go this one minus 2C, and then that one plus AC. So I just rearranged the letters. I didn't change the signs. I was just rearranging it. All right, so now we can look at these. Oh, one other thing. Let's erase this. I'm going to give you a tip. I figured this out a couple years ago that kids make a lot less mistakes if they make sure that this symbol right here in this spot is always positive. So rearrange your 4 terms so that that third term is always positive. So I am actually going to put AC right here and minus 2C at the end. You can do it the other way, but for some reason this cleared up so many mistakes on the test just by making that one small change. All right, so let's go back to this. Now we're grouping these together, and we're taking out what's in common in the green parentheses. So on this first one, what can we take out of these two terms? We can take a B, which leaves us with a minus 2. And from these parentheses, what can we take out? And you're left with a minus 2, which is really nice. Okay, because we can take that a minus 2 out front, and we're left with b plus c. Questions? Okay, so let's try this one. Right now you'll notice that that middle sign right here isn't positive. So my first suggestion would be to rearrange these so that that 2y is in that spot so that you have a plus. And you also need to be able to group these together with like things. Okay, so right now the first two terms don't have anything in common, so we need to rewrite it. So xy, what would be the next one to write down?
Minus 3x.
Minus 3x. So we have these two taken care of. Okay, what one should go next based on what I said yesterday? 2y, not yesterday, on the last slide, minus 6. So again, we just rearranged it. We didn't change any signs. The signs stayed attached to the terms. But now we can group them together. And we can take out what's in common. So we take out an x, left with
1.
take out a,
2.
left with,
1.
which means our answer is y minus 3 out front, x plus 2. So we know how to factor when there's 2 terms, 3 terms, and 4 terms. Okay, and in our last section, which we'll do in a couple days after we review a little bit, is just kind of pulling all of this together and making sure that we're ready for the test. Okay, but today's homework is just going to be this grouping stuff.